Hi, I'm Evie. I'm a Politics and International Relations student at the University of Sheffield, and I'm the founder and coordinator of Our Bodies, Our Streets. It's an intersectional feminist movement at the university aiming to empower victims of street harassment of all genders to exercise outdoors on the streets without fear and shame. My activism started really when I was training for my first ever 10k in lockdown, and when I went running, I was really surprised, upset, and angered by the amount of misogynistic abuse and catcalling that I received when I was trying to just navigate public spaces and essentially just exist, use my body, wearing comfortable clothes, just sports clothes. And this got me thinking about how, whilst we've made a lot of progress in the feminist movement, this is an area that's certainly lacking behind and is potentially getting worse according to statistics. That harassment on the streets is actually on the rise since the start of lockdown. So I decided to set up a movement of like minded people, victims, and allies to spread a message through the university and out into the city that catcalling is not acceptable, it's not a compliment, it will be challenged, and that we're demanding the right to be left alone when we use.
So there are lots of different things that men and masculine people can do to fight street harassment, and kind of the first and foremost thing is that we should be using our male privilege. We have a huge amount of power to influence and change the behaviour of others, and so we should be using that to change people's attitudes. And that means things like vocally supporting victims of street harassment and uplifting their voices and making it very clear that that's not acceptable and that we need to change this rape culture that we have that causes things like this. And kind of linked to that, we also think it's very important to like hold your social circle to account. This can be very, very powerful, and it really just involves calling out people who use disrespectful language or make inappropriate comments about women and queer people and other victims of street harassment, which can be a very uncomfortable conversation, but obviously that discomfort is nothing in comparison to the discomfort of experiencing street harassment. And it's important to have these conversations about street harassment and sexual assault and sexism in general when women and other victims of street harassment aren't present. It's very important for men and masculine people to engage with each other when not only when our female friends are around. Listening and engaging with victims is also very, very important. It's very important when you're talking to someone who's been a victim of street harassment not to victim blame, to be defensive, or to play devil's advocate. You need to check up on people who've experienced harassment and make them feel heard, make them feel valid, and support them in any way you can. And then the last thing is that men and masculine people should learn how to safely intervene. So we use the 5Ds. That is delay, which it means after the incident, check the victim is okay and ask if they need anything, be supportive and show empathy and do anything you can really to support someone. Delegate, which means getting someone in authority to deal with situations. So that could be if you're in a club, asking a bouncer to deal with someone who's harassing people. The third one is document, which means filming an incident of harassment and then asking the victim afterwards if they're okay with the footage and if they want you to do anything with it. Fourth one is distract, which means cause a situation that stops the harassment. This could be asking for like directions or otherwise providing some kind of excuse for the victim to leave the situation. And then the final one is direct, which means calling the harasser out, of course, only if that's safe to do so, and then telling them to leave the victim alone. So in summary, there's like lots of different things that men and masculine people can and should be doing to fight this problem.
Hiya, I'm here to explain what the aims of our organisation are. Simply put, our aim is to empower victims of street harassment to exercise freely outdoors and utilise the streets and public spaces without fear or shame. Specifically, we want to raise awareness of the issue, causes, and impacts via discussion and digital activism. We want to send a message to perpetrators that catcalling is not a compliment and will be challenged. We will do this via social media, articles, and varied forms of protest. Through workshops and discussions, we aim to foster allyship among non-victim groups and encourage them to support our cause. We will also use workshops to teach about bystander intervention. Through working with groups in the student body who champion equality, we aim to reveal the intersectional impacts of street harassment based on religion, ethnicity, disability, sexual orientation, and gender identity. And ultimately, we want to encourage victims of street harassment to use their bodies positively and celebrate them for what they can do, empowering people to take a stand via artwork and exercise sessions.
I believe the main reason why women and femme people are subject to so much street harassment is because often our voices about our experiences really aren't heard, or it's seen as a natural part of growing up that we have to deal with in our daily lives. It's seen as less of an issue, and for perpetrators this can mean that they're often ignorant to how prevalent and how harmful street harassment can be. And because of this, misogynistic and patriarchal views often go unchallenged. There are no consequences, and this perpetrates the cycle of street harassment. Furthermore, for bystanders, they can mean they're less confident in calling this negative behaviour out in their peers, in their friend groups. And for victims, they can in turn feel less likely to report, more that they just have to put up with this experience of harassment, which contributes to the vicious cycle of it not being seen as a big issue, not being seen as prevalent. And I think this is really why Our Bodies, Our Streets is so important as a campaign. It brings to light the prevalence, the harm of street harassment, and affirms it is something that we simply don't just have to cope with, that's something that can be challenged, something that can be changed. It can empower bystanders to speak up if they see behaviour that is wrong, and enlighten potential perpetrators to just how harmful this behaviour can be.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you check us out on Instagram and Facebook. Our username is Our Bodies, Our Streets, all one word. On there you can find links to our email address and our website, where we're showcasing an art exhibition at the moment, focusing on the experience of street harassment from the victim's perspective. So make sure you check that out and get involved in any way you can, and I hope you enjoy the festival. Thank you.